Hi, I'm Greg Zorian, third generation master barber. Today we have our model Billy here, and we're going to do a skin fade, a 2 to 3 finger skin fade, and I'm going to spin him around here so you can look a little closer at the way his hair grows. He has a very common circular growth pattern, so what we want to do is we want to keep the fade very low, because if we don't, you can see back here where his pivot is, the calic, it's gonna stick straight up. And usually with a circular growth pattern, what happens is the left side is the really tough side, and you can see even with his hair wet down, it wants to stick out a little bit, so we got to keep it low. He does have a distinct part there, but we're not going to go with a part. We're going to just kind of mess it up. So the best way to cut his hair, we did our consultation before we started filming, and Billy said he likes to keep his hair long on top because he likes to be able to just kind of push it back and have a natural look. So we're not going to go with a part, we're just going to kind of mess it up. So to do that, we're not going to take any length off the top. We're going to use a technique called scissor over comb, but we're going to use it with our texturizing or thinning shears, and we're going to take some of the thickness out. So again, with very straight hair and a circular growth pattern, if you just cut length, it's going to stick up. If you just leave it long and heavy, it's just going to lay flat and look like we put a bowl on his head, neither which we want. So we're going to go through again with our scissor over comb technique. And the other thing that we want to pay close attention to, I'll grab my big comb here, is we want to, before you start cutting, you want to look at the hairline. So when we look at his hairline, he has a V-shaped hairline where it's lower in the center and higher in the corners. So when we're cutting the top, and I'll be talking about this when we cut the top, we want to over direct past the farthest point here, because if we start cutting too far forward, we're going to cut a hole in that area and he's not going to have the hair to push back. So we don't want to just rush through the top. And then the way I'm going to cut it is I'm going to start on the top and work my way down. I find for me it works the best. I remove the bulk first. I create myself a guide all the way around here so I don't fade past it. So a common problem a lot of people have, and I get this question all the time, is blending. Where do I blend? Where do I put the blend? How do I blend? I like to do it in the reverse. So I give myself a guide, because if I go too high, I'm going to start to blend. If I go too high with the clippers down low, I'm going to wind up with the fade too high, which we don't want. So if I create myself a guide, I blend to the guide, and I'm not going to go too high. And the other thing that does is that takes out about 50 to 75% of the haircut, because we're never actually going to create a line and we don't have to blend it out. So that's a major step. So to start out, we're going to start out with our scissor over comb technique, and I'm going to use a thinning or a texturizing shear, and we're going to start out on the top, and I can either pick it up with my fingers or I can use a scissor over comb technique. So I'm going to do both. I'm going to start out taking a little bit less, just to show you what a scissor over finger technique would look like, and then I'm going to show you what a scissor over comb technique will look like. So now I'm going to do the same thing I did before. Before I was just kind of showing you what I was doing, but now I'm going to get a little bit more aggressive, and we're going to go about halfway down the shaft of the hair, and we're going to make 3 or 4 cuts, and that's not taking any length. All that's doing is taking thickness, and that's going to add a little bit more longevity to the haircut. Then when we're in the corner, we're over directing past the farthest point, because I don't want to cut a hole in there. And I'm taking that imaginary plane straight out. I'm not rounding down. If I round down, the hair is going to be too short in the back and it's going to stick up. So already on this side, you can just kind of see how he said he wants to leave it natural, and you can see how it's falling naturally. The great thing about clipper over comb is right now I'm taking the place of, say, a number 4 or a 1/2 inch attachment by using the clipper over comb. And I'm blending to the top. So this cuts out about 2 or 3 steps right here before we go into the fade. So we're going to have very little blending to do, as you can see, because we removed a lot of that bulk. Now if you look really closely at the hair on the tips of the teeth there, I never lose sight of the cutting blade. If I didn't do this step first and just went in blindly, I wouldn't see the tips of the teeth, and that's why you would be in danger of cutting cutting the fade up too high. Now I know exactly where I am, and I can start to pull the blade away sooner. Because if I couldn't see this, I don't know how high I am. I'm lost under all that hair. And in the back, there's not as much to do, just a little bit. And with the right tool, it makes it even easier. And sometimes you can't even see what you're cutting. You just know it's there. So basically what I'm doing is I'm using my comb as a plastic attachment. And I'm attaching the clipper to the comb. So your clipper over comb technique, it's probably your most versatile technique. Alright, so I'll make sure I get that blade on there nice and flat. And the other thing you want to do is you want to go nice and slow with your clippers. The slower you cut, the faster you're going to be done because you only have to do it one time. Okay, and then we do it in the corners. Now the one thing you don't want to do is you don't want to round the corner this way. You want to keep it parallel to the hairline here and then parallel to the floor when you're in the back. So now as I come to the back, I'm keeping the blade parallel to the floor the whole time. So that way when I come back with my trimmer, I can create a nice line, a nice diagonal line there. It's not going to be rounded. So we want to fade that right out because his hair is higher in the center than the corner, so we got to fade those corners out really nice. And we're using a scooping motion. Then I'm going to close it halfway, and we're not going to go as high. A little touch that we do here at my barber shop is we shave everybody's neck with the straight razor and some type of shaving cream. So what I use is I have a brushless shave lotion. That's part of my Zorian of New York line. So what this is, it has aloe and shea butter in it. Shea butter is an anti-inflammatory. Aloe softens the skin, and it also has a ton of skin conditioner in it as well, a little bit of oil. So this is going to give them a nice, smooth, comfortable shave. And the fact that it's a lotion, it's kind of like a moisturizing lotion and a shave cream in one. We're just going to put it on his neck, and then after we shave, we can just rub it right into the skin as an aftershave. And this is going to give him an extra 2 or 3 days. It's a really nice finishing touch that most places don't do. So I'm going to start out with my razor, and I'm using a free hand stroke. I tend to have a heavy hand, so the proper way to hold the razor is with just your pinky on the one side. I put 2 fingers on the other side just because I have, as I said, I have a little bit of a heavy hand, and I just want to glide the blade over the skin. So I give the skin a good stretch. I don't use any pressure with the razor at all. The stretch is what gives you a nice close shave. And then we just lightly glide that over the skin. And I keep the razor flat on the skin. I don't angle it out like this and scrape the hair off. I want it nice and flat so it's real comfortable. So now that we have that done, now we're going to move into the styling portion of the haircut. So we have a couple choices. So we can either use, if we want to go with a dry look, we can use a shaping paste, which this is my shaping paste. It's kind of like a cement. It's very, very strong, and it's going to give a matte finish, which is a dry finish, and it's going to give a real strong hold, and it's going to not look like he has anything in his hair. Or Billy and I discussed before the haircut, he wanted to go with something a little softer, so we're going to use my Grooming Cream, which is going to give it a medium hold and a medium shine, and he likes to run his fingers through his hair during the day, so he's going to be able to with this. So the Grooming Cream also has lavender oil and coconut oil in it, which are both very good for the hair and scalp. So I'm going to take about a knuckles, almost a knuckles worth of the grooming cream, and then we're gonna rub it. I'm gonna rub it in my hands, and I'm gonna start again, especially with that circular growth pattern. I'm gonna go over the top. I'm gonna come from the front and go underneath and get right down to the roots of the hair this way, and then I'm gonna push it back forward again. That way we get the hair all the way. That way we get the product all the way through. And he said he wants to just kind of leave it natural, and he doesn't. He doesn't comb his hair, brush his hair. He likes to just go with this kind of look. So, just in the back here, I want to make sure I get the product through, all the way through. And then at the end, I can mess it up again. But I want to make sure that product is all the way through, so it has holding power throughout the day. So then what I'll do is I'll just take my fingers, and then we'll just mess it up a little bit and just lift it up a little bit in the front. And then I'm just gonna spin them around a little bit so you can see the full view here, what it looks like from the front. And you can see that we have complete coverage on the side there. Nothing sticking up in the back. We've got a nice blend. And then if you take a close look at the bottom, it's faded right out to nothing. So we have a nice natural looking haircut.